for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What is up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Christian McLean. I am Sans co-host tonight, but you know what? It's Thanksgiving Eve. I'm thankful for all of you, for watchers, consumers of this product. I love college football so much, and I am so thankful to be able to cover this sport the way we do, and to be able to go to the games that I'm able to. I live in LA, so I'm able to go to USC and UCLA games, and also the fact that I can go travel to Florida games and USF games. And, it's been a real pleasure this year. And potentially I might go to a playoff game depending on what locations they'll be and how inexpensive it'll be to be able to get there. But, this has been a great year. I'm thankful for it all. I'm thankful for every one of you. I'm thankful for my wife. We got married this year on my 40th birthday. And, it's been a great year. And I'm very happy to see how things are going so far with college football, with the playoff, with how things now. I did the list of games. There are 24 games that I'm going over with you guys today. 24. That is the most by far I've ever gone over in any preview show in the 9 years that I've ever done this show. So that tells you right there that, this sport is evolving in front of our very eyes to where it's now more inclusive of all teams, or a good number of teams, where, for the longest time, it was only really a handful of teams, maybe 4 or 5 teams each year. Now it is literally the entire top 25 has a shot of getting to the playoff, even into the last week of the season, and maybe depending on what happens in the conference championship games as well. So this gives more conversation. This makes this stuff more interesting. More people are tuning in. I mean, I can only imagine what the ratings are going to be the next couple of weeks and into the playoffs. It should be pretty large. I may be wrong, but I feel like the sport is just growing ever so much as things expand, as we, modernize the game. It's been great. I have been a huge fan of this because the biggest thing is the home playoff games, which I know y'all have, I think, realize it, but I don't think you do, because once we actually get it and we get to see those teams with home playoff games, there's no environment like that. We have never seen it in college football. 90,000, 100,000 seat stadiums with literally a chance to win a championship on the line in those games, in those stadiums. I mean, the fervor, the environment, the aura, the everything about it will just be top notch. And I'm definitely trying to see if I can go to one of them, because it'll be remarkable regardless. So let's jump into first, before we do the week 14 preview, let's jump into conference championship game scenarios. And we'll start off with an easy one, just to ease into this. The SEC, it's real simple. Georgia is in, and then the other side is either Texas or Texas A&M. And whoever wins that game on Saturday goes. So literally, we already basically know what the SEC championship game is going to be like. And Georgia, if they lose to Tech, they still would get a chance to get an SEC championship berth, but into the playoff. But if they lose the SEC championship game with 3 losses, it's going to be tough. But I mean, they still should get in. But if they lose both to Tech and to Texas A&M, that would be, or Texas A&M, that would be really tough to see them getting in with 4 losses. I don't think that would happen. I think if they got 4 losses, they're out. Okay. Big 12. This is a nightmare, because there are still 9 teams mathematically alive to reach the championship game in the Big 12. That's ridiculous. I can't even believe that's a possibility, but it really is. It says 4 teams are currently tied at 6-2. Arizona State, BYU, Iowa State, Colorado. I think Arizona State and Iowa State right now are slotted as the top two teams, but it says none of them control their own destiny because of certain tiebreakers. It says Arizona State and Iowa State at their position win out. They still might miss the conference championship game. That's how crazy it is. Now, put it on like Colorado State, it was not very good today against Arizona with the great night on the Colorado and final conference weeks. State clinches with they beat Saturday last, and I'm really excited wise of Tulane. They Tulane and USF. They're in the last 3 points. That is in 3 games. I mean, they let's see, Navy. They beat USF 21-3, and what's the other one they lost? They lost one early, I believe. Where is it? Lost to Navy. Oh, UTSA. And UTSA, they've been kind of like off the radar. Like, I know that they had a good quarterback for a few years, and then he's finally gone now. So, like, I haven't followed them as much because USF didn't play them. And, like, I don't know really how well they're doing. But I've heard them every once in a while, like, come up and, like, oh, UTSA made this win. It's like, obviously beating Memphis is a huge win for them. But no, I think this Memphis team is good enough to score enough points. Where also, though, Tulane has been really great on defense lately. So maybe they're just going to smoke them again. I don't think it's going to be a shutout, but I think it might be like a close game, like a 24-14 game. And I think Tulane wins and then sets up a really important AAC championship game with Army, because Army, like right now after that Notre Dame loss, really doesn't have a shot at the playoff. But I don't know. I mean, a win over Tulane in the AAC championship game would be kind of huge and could move the needle a little bit. I don't know what to tell you when we get to that. But right now, as far as this game, I believe Tulane's going to win, like I said, 24-14. So let's move on to Oklahoma State, Colorado. This Oklahoma State team is terrible. They've their quarterback play has been just garbage, and Colorado is a way better team than Oklahoma State at this point. Shedeur Sanders, obviously very talented, and same with Travis Hunter. And, I called it out last week. I knew that Kansas was going to win that game against Colorado, but I think they bounce back here. I think they win pretty convincingly. Oklahoma State is just not a good team. I'm going to say Colorado wins 38 to probably 20. Okay, next game we got Oregon State, Boise State. Again, Ian's more of the G5 guy, so he would know more about Boise specifically and Oregon State. Oregon State, I don't know a ton about. Obviously, they've been kind of under the radar because of the Pac-2 stuff. They're kind of just, there, but not really positioned for anything. They haven't really done a ton all year. Boise State, on the other hand, is 10-1 with a possible Heisman candidate on their roster, which at this point, Gentie's going to New York. It's just if he's going to win it or not, which is going to be close. It's probably going to be him, Travis Hunter, and Cam Ward at this point. I think Gentie's going to have a real good game. I think he probably hits 200 and goes for at least 2 TDs. And so I think Boise State wins probably 31 to 17. Next game we got Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I feel really bad for Ole Miss because they had a shot at the playoff, but I don't feel that bad because that meant Florida got the momentum that they needed by beating a big team like Ole Miss, a top 10 team at the time. So now Florida has a lot of momentum going forward, but Ole Miss has a really slim shot of making the playoffs. I think they said after the loss that they would have a 4% chance of making the playoff, which, considering what happened last year with Florida State, and they had a 97% chance of making the playoff and they didn't. So I'm not out of the realm of probability because of the fact of what certain percentages are. I know it's just kind of made up numbers from ESPN, but I feel like Ole Miss is still there because there's going to be a lot of chaos in the next 2 weeks. And I feel like if they just take care of business at home in the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State, who was having a terrible year under their first year head coach, like they can easily get on track to like have a possibility. They need to win this game. And if they don't, they're completely out. They have a slim chance. They just got to win and hope that a lot of craziness ensues, which, you know, I've seen craziness in sports a lot of times, like, 2011 with the Rays, where they were down like 8-1 or 7-1 in like the seventh inning against the Yankees, came back, storm, and won that game. And they also needed the Red Sox to win a game where they were losing as well. So like things can happen. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. So they got to win. I feel like they're going to. I feel like they're going to be motivated. And, this is not the end of their story. And I think a lot of people felt like that and they like buried them, but I don't think it is. Okay, so Ole Miss, I'm going to say probably wins like 34 to like 17. Okay, next game, old fashioned hate or old clean hate. I think that's what the name of this rivalry is. Georgia Tech, Georgia. Finally, Georgia Tech has a decent enough team. They've beaten Miami twice in the last 2 years. They beat Florida State. They've looked really good all year. I like Haynes King a lot for this offense. And I think their backup that comes in, I can't remember his name, like Philo or something. He's been playing pretty well. And, Georgia is not one of their stronger teams that they've had in the last 4 or 5 years. I feel like if there is a gettable game for Georgia Tech, it is this game. I think they can get them. It's in Athens, so there's a lot of benefit there for the Bulldogs. I just feel like Georgia's going to win this one. They have the possibility of going to the playoff, and I think Kirby Smart's going to dial it in. I think they're going to get them ready for this one. And trust me, I'm not a Georgia fan at all, and I would love to see Tech to win this game. Right now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Georgia's going to win like probably a close one, probably like a 28-24 game. And maybe like Tech has the ball late and doesn't score. And like Georgia gets like a turnover, interception probably to end it. Okay, moving on. Those were the Friday games that we had slated. Next, we have Saturday, which a ton of Saturday games. There's like, we've gone through 5 already. There's like 19 on Saturday that we need to go through alone. Okay, first game, Michigan, Ohio State. Huge game for Ohio State. They have to win to get into the Big Ten championship game and to get a possibility of a first-round bye for the playoff. I think that they can still lose this game and obviously get into the playoff. I don't think it's going to hurt them that much. I think they would still be like probably 9 or 10 seed at that point. And, they'd have to play a game on the road, which would be tough, but they're good enough. Their like defense travels, which, that's a huge benefit there because, the defense is really good. I think they could play anybody in the country outside of maybe Oregon right now, who they have to play if they win the Big Ten or if they get to the Big Ten championship. So I feel like Michigan, with their quarterback situation, Orji and the other guy that's kind of crappy, like Orji can't even throw the ball, but he's like very elusive and can run with the ball. And the other guy can't run at all and not very good with his arm. So like 2 quarterbacks combined together to make a very like Daniel Jones-esque quarterback. That's essentially what they have. And, which is not good. Their defense, like I've said, is strong. They should keep them in this game. But I think Ohio State has too much firepower. It's going to be a similar score to like the Indiana game. I'm going to say like a 35 to like 14 game. Okay. Upset. This is one I've got this slotted in. Tennessee, Vanderbilt. I'm calling it right now. Like I even just saw a stat earlier today. It was that Tennessee has lost to God, I don't have it. Tennessee, I think, is lost to Vanderbilt 7 out of the last 12 times. I believe. I'm not 100% sure. I just saw it somewhere on Twitter. I did not confirm. But if that is the case, that is surprising, but not that surprising because Tennessee has been pretty bad the last like 12 years. So, but Vanderbilt has been terrible over the last 12 years outside of this year, which I think Clark Lee has them playing really well. Pavia, if you have not seen this kid play, he's nails. He can, run the ball very well, and he's a very proficient passer. He has them believing, I feel like Vandy can win this game. They almost had LSU last week. They almost beat Missouri earlier in the year. They beat Alabama. They beat Vatek. Like, this team is good. This is a good Vanderbilt team that deserves to play in a good bowl game. And if they beat Tennessee, they're going to get a good bowl game. And, hats off to them because I don't think many people saw it coming. And, I'm telling you, I don't think Nico is that great. I think he's like probably above average right now. Maybe he'll get better, but he hasn't been really like, blowing the doors off. He's been missing a lot of open guys, but the run game for Tennessee is huge. Like, they can run the ball like nobody's business. Samson has I think he has 34 touchdowns, which is like first among active SEC rushers, which is crazy. And he has like a ton again this year. And, their defense is really good, but it's in Nashville. I like Vandy a lot in this game. I'm going to say Vandy wins. I'm going to say they win in a close one, probably like 24-20, and maybe they hit a field goal late to make it that, and then Tennessee has to go down and try to score a touchdown instead of a field goal, and they can't get the touchdown because Vandy makes the defensive stop. Okay, next game, South Carolina, Clemson. Huge potential on this one. And with that Tennessee game, if they lose, Tennessee is likely out. So South Carolina, Clemson, huge on a lot of stuff on the line here for both South Carolina and Clemson. South Carolina, if they win, they will be 9-3 and have a slim chance of getting in, but we will see because they will have a really good resume. Barely lost to Alabama, barely lost to LSU. They probably should have beat LSU. They beat A&M, and they've had really good success all year. They've looked good in a lot of their wins. And then Clemson, lost to Georgia early, lost to Louisville, and looked really dominant outside of that. Clemson needs help from Miami to get in the ACC championship game, but they can backdoor into the playoff if they can win this game, being 10-2 and looking really good at 10-2. So this is a huge game, huge rivalry. This is a very heated rivalry, and I hope it's a close game. Because the funny thing about this game is a lot of time it ends up being a blowout. Like, even if like one team is better than the other, it's somehow like a blowout regardless. And it's or a blowout going the other way where the worst team actually like ends up blowing out the other team. So it's a weird rivalry and that weird results happen in it. I feel like Clemson's going to win this one. I like South Carolina a lot, though. I love Sellers. I think their defense is ferocious. The defensive line just gets after guys. But I think Clemson is good enough offensively and stout enough on defense to hold Sellers in check enough. I think it's going to be like a 28-20 game, and Clemson gets the win, and South Carolina is so close. They're like the surprise team of the year outside of like Vandy. Like, really amazing job by Shane Beamer, because I figured that Shane Beamer was going to be fired, and look, lo and behold, they're right there with it. They're right there in the mix for a playoff spot, which is crazy. Okay, next game we got UTSA Army. Army should annihilate these guys. But like I said, I don't know a ton about UTSA. They did beat Memphis recently, so they've got firepower there. They scored like 40-plus points in that game. Army, though, reeling a little bit after that loss to Notre Dame. They've got, this game and two more games after this. They've got the AAC championship game and the Army-Navy game. So there's a lot to play for here. There is a chance that they could get in the playoff. They'd have to win all three of these games. I think they get off the snide here. I think Daly has a really good game. I think that their offense runs a lot more smoothly than against a very strong Notre Dame defense where they were limited there. They had the ball for a ton of time, which obviously time of possession means nothing in this day and age. You got to score points. And I think they can score points on this UTSA defense, which I think it's going to be close, but I think UTSA is going to struggle a little bit against Army's defense, which I'm surprised Army's defense struggled as much as it did against Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has a really good team. So I'm going to say Army wins like 31 to like 24. Okay. USF Rice, Beatrice, as everyone likes to say, because the hashtag was beat Rice and it looks like Beatrice is just ridiculous, whatever. So let's see. You know, it's like they lost a bunch of games early. They were 4-5 at one point. All the teams we cover 3 weeks ago were 4-5. Now Florida is 6-5, USC is 6-5, and USF is 6-5. So all three recovered a little bit. UCLA's kind of struggled a little bit here the last 2 weeks, but so kind of turning the boat around. USF with you know, their schedule was front loaded. They had Alabama, Miami, Tulane, Memphis, all 4 of the first 6 games. So like it was going to be a struggle. You know, they were hoping to go 2-2 in those games and they went 0-4. And that really kind of, you know, buried their schedule a little bit, or their season. And if they had beaten Navy, it may have been even more of a turnaround job that he did after those 4 losses, but they lost to Navy. And so, but the back end of the schedule was very easy. It was very manageable, and that they could take a lot of games and win them easily. I mean, they smoked Charlotte, they smoked UAB. You know, they smoked who did they smoke last week? What was it? I can't remember the team, but the USF smoked you know, the team last week. And so it's like, you know, they've really kind of recovered now since Tulsa. And so they've righted the ship. They've got the bowl game as they're going to come into. If they win this game, they're 7-5. If they win the bowl game, they're 8-5. And 8-5 is already a progression from last year, which was 7-6. So they're doing things better. Alex Golish has the recruiting there. It is, you know, moving right along. You know, it is a struggle to deal with these better teams because they may not be there depth-wise. And, you know, it's proven. Like, Byron Brown has been out all year because of the injury. So, like, clearly the depth is an issue. And so, you know, once they get to a certain point where the recruiting is, like, on a really high level, you know, they may be able to take off. And this, honestly, may be a benefit for this year because if Alex Golish had knocked it out of the park this year, he may have been gone this year. So at least he didn't really knock it out of the park. You know, there's at least next year that he'll still be there. And, you know, the closer he gets to being there when the stadium is being built, maybe he decides to stay as like, hey, you know what? I've been around. You know, I want to see the fruits of my labor, be around for when the stadium takes off and like actually be a part of that. And maybe that like keeps him. I don't know. That he has all that he wants right now. And, you know, he's recruiting the Tampa Bay area really great. And, you know, things are looking up. And I'm really glad that it is because the 3 years with Jeff Scott were atrocious. They won 4 games. And, you know, the end of Charlie Strong's tenure was terrible too. So, you know, I've just been a miserable USF fan for several years. And to finally see some success, I know USF fans are complaining about, oh, blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that. You know, whatever, man. Like, this is way different than what it's been like the last 4 or 5 years. And, you know, ever since I actually moved out here, the second I moved out here, which was like 7 years ago today, USF lost to UCF. And from that point on, the team just went on a death spiral. And, you know, now it seems like it's kind of got out of that spiral and things are actually going a lot better. And so we'll see. This game, I think they can win easily. They're a better team than Rice. It's in Houston, but I feel like USF's going to be there ready to play. I think USF's going to win like 38 to like 20. Okay. Maryland, Penn State. It's in Happy Valley. I feel like Penn State should win this game easily. I feel like Penn State, should get their offense right, but there is a chance that they may get beat by this Maryland team. And that's what's crazy, because it's like Penn State has everything to play for here. And if they lose this game, they definitely don't go to the Big Ten championship. And then I don't think it would kick them out completely of the playoff rankings. It could, because Maryland doesn't have a good record, season record right now. But I don't know. We'll see. I still think Penn State's going to win this. I'm going to say Penn State wins like 28 to like 17. Okay, moving on. Auburn, Alabama, Iron Bowl. All right. No, so Alabama, again, another team with a possibility. This is the great thing about the expanded playoff. And a 3-loss team in the SEC still has a shot at making the playoff. I think they have a lot to play for. Auburn, though, on the other hand, last week, decimated A&M's chances a good amount. They're not, A&M's not completely dead, obviously, but Auburn is feeling that. They looked really good in that game against A&M, and A&M is a really good team. I feel like Alabama will have a lot to play for here. I know people are saying like, oh, there's no playoff shot. No, there is. Like, crazy things can happen considering the scenarios that we have for the Big 12 championship game. Anything is possible. So I think Milroe has to do better in this game. If they want to win this game, he has to have like 1 interception or less. He cannot have more than 2. You saw 3 last week, and they just completely obliterated any shot of winning that game. And Auburn with Peyton Thorne, they're moving the ball. Maybe Peyton Thorne has finally gotten it. It's finally clicking to him. I think Auburn will be able to score some points. Alabama, if Milroe can eliminate the mistakes, I think they have a good shot of winning this game. I'm going to say Alabama 31, Auburn like 27, close one. Okay, another upset. Miami, Syracuse. I'm calling it right now. And the reason I'm calling it is because the Syracuse team has been sneaky good all year. And they've been just there all year, beating decent teams. They beat Tech. They looked bad against Pitt, but it was like an implosion by their quarterback. I can kind of ignore that a little bit because Pitt didn't even really do anything on offense to really warrant having won that game as immensely as they did. I feel like Syracuse has a decent enough offense. It's in the Carrier Dome. I feel like there is a chance here for Syracuse to get a huge win. Miami, obviously the offense is very good. Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, Restrepo, all the receivers, even that tight end Arroyo, they're very good. I'm not denying that. There's no denying the offense, but I feel like Syracuse is good enough on offense, and that is always Miami's problem. If they go up against any team that has a decent offense, they really can't stop them. Their defense is terrible. It is by far the worst defense of any team in the top 12. If they go in the playoffs, I really believe they're going to struggle against a really good offense. And even if they play SMU, they're going to struggle there. I feel like SMU is going to score 50 on them. And, and I think SMU's defense is good enough to hold Miami to maybe 30 points. So I feel like Syracuse can win this game, and it would be hilarious if they did, because then Miami would be 1 out of the ACC championship game, and then 2 potentially maybe out of the rankings completely, which would be hilarious because they've been mouthing off all year. But I just feel like Syracuse has got it here. I know they probably think they got it in the bag, but I'm telling you, Syracuse is a tough team. McCord is good enough, and I feel like their coach is got them ready to play. He came in running last year. I don't know if he was coaching at the bowl game, but they were talking about him because it was USF versus Syracuse, and he was already had a plan. They already had McCord transferring there. They had a blueprint of what they wanted to do, and it's been really good so far this year. And, I honestly, I feel like they can do it. And I know it's like, whatever. I'm not being biased. I'm literally just looking at this objectively. They've struggled in some of these games, like I said, that Pitt game and that they lost at Boston College. But they're winning some of these games. So they beat UNLV, which UNLV is a good team. The Stanford loss really is terrible. But outside of that, they lost Stanford, Pitt, and BC. Yeah, so they're 8-3 right now. Like, I'm telling you, man, this team is not. This is no joke. This is not a layup for Miami. This is going to be a difficult game for them to win. And I feel like because of the deficiencies on Miami's defense, that they are going to lose this game. Okay. Let's see. What do we got? Cal, SMU. Only reason they're on here is because like SMU trying to really like solidify their spot in a top spot for first round bye. I think they do. I think SMU wins pretty big. It's a home game. It's senior night. I think SMU wins probably like, I don't know, 45 to like 20. Notre Dame, USC. I kind of want to go to this game, but I've got some things I got to take care of, so I'm probably not going to go. I'm not going to call this upset, but Ian is, because I got his picks. Ian's calling the upset here. I'm going to say Notre Dame wins this one, though, because I think they have a lot on the line. This definitely could be a game that USC wins because they're good enough defensively and they're good enough offensively to put up points and to like hold Notre Dame in check. I just think Notre Dame, they have to win this game because this is it. Like, this is the last barrier for them to get in the playoff. But I think they still get in regardless with 2 losses, but it would really hurt their chances. I'm going to say USC scores probably like 28, and Notre Dame's going to have to score a little more. So I'm going to say like 33. So 33-28 Notre Dame. Arizona State, Arizona. I like Arizona State in this one. I know Arizona has some good pieces offensively. Their quarterback and McMillan, the wide receiver who's up for the Biletnikoff. He's a Biletnikoff finalist. I think Arizona State, with a lot to play for, obviously they win. They don't guarantee a spot in the Big 12 championship game, but I think they do win this one. I'm going to say Arizona State wins it in a close one, probably like 27-20. Okay, Fresno State, UCLA. Oh, I didn't even do the lights for USC. Sorry about that, USC. UCLA, they'll get this one. It's been a rough year. I think things are trending well for them. Eric Bieniemy likely will stay another year, so the offense will be better next year. I think he was kind of like feeling everything out at the beginning of the year, and I think he got better as the year went on with his play calling. And this should be an easy one for UCLA to win. I'm going to say like UCLA wins like 28-17. Okay. Florida State, Florida. Here we go. It's in Tallahassee. Florida is 6-5. Florida State is 2-9. This should be a blowout. This should be Florida winning by like 45 to like 10. Florida State has only scored more than 21 once all year, and that was last week against 1-10 FCS team, Charleston Southern. So clearly they're not a good offense. They're not a good defense. Their rankings as far as all the stats are like in the hundreds and higher, and it's bad. They're a terrible team. They're on to their like third string freshman quarterback, Luke. I don't know how to say his last name, starts with a K. But on conversely, freshman starting for Florida, DJ Lagway, right now is 4-0 in games that he started and finished. He lost the one game that he started, but he didn't finish the Georgia game. But outside of that, destroyed Kentucky, beat UCF. Well, he didn't start at UCF. He beat LSU, beat Ole Miss. And so, DJ's looked great, and he's been the difference maker, and the defense as well. I think both of those two things are what have been the difference for the Florida team right now. You know, the fact that they have turned the corner defensively. They've really started to make stops when they needed to. You know, it's bend, don't break. I think like total defense, they're in the hundreds. But as far as red zone defense, they're like, I think it was 12th I saw. So like they really are proficient at making stops. They've made a ton of fourth down stops inside plus territory. You know, this week against Ole Miss, they had 2 huge fourth down stops that really were the difference in the game. Because if Ole Miss gets any points there, there's a really good chance that Florida probably loses that game. And so the defense has been tremendous. Lagway, Jaden Baugh, you know, Montrell looked great last week, coming back from injury fully. Elijah Badger, if you don't know who this kid is, probably going to the NFL next year and going to look real good. Should be like a day 2, maybe day 3 pick, but probably like 3rd or 4th round. He's really solid, very good hands, just a all-around great receiver. You know, I don't know. I just don't feel like Florida should lose this game. And it's weird because it's been like, I think like 5 or 6 weeks since I've maybe even thought of predicting a Florida win, you know, because of the Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss games. I was very hesitant of picking Florida, and I don't think I did in any of those games. Finally, though, I'm going to pick it. I'm going to say Florida wins. I'm going to say Florida wins probably like 38-10, and the defense is going to play lights out. I think they're going to get a ton of sacks. I'm predicting like probably 6 sacks total for the defense, and I think DJ probably has like a 250-yard, maybe even more. I mean, like he could really go off against Florida State. Like he honestly could have a really good game to the point where he scores like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 touchdowns. Potential is there. FSU is very bad, and you know, Florida is trending in the right direction, and it is such a huge difference from where we were at the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year, 1-2 after the A&M game, and then 4-5 after the Texas game where they got blown out. And it's like, it's crazy what 2 wins will do, but it completely has changed the trajectory of everything. Because one, before the Texas game, Strickland came out and said that Billy Napier will be here. They get blown out, but then DJ comes back after he was hurt on the field against Georgia. Comes back, wins the LSU game, then they win the Ole Miss game. Now the recruiting is through the roof. I know recruiting is not top 10 yet, but it has the potential to get there if they get some flips. There's still a week to go. And then plus like other recruiting after that, transfer portal stuff. So there'll be a lot of stuff they'll fill in the cracks there, because there is going to be some holes. There's going to be a lot of guys that are moving on after the end of this year. But, you know, the sky is the limit right now. And like the trajectory, the momentum, it's there. And it's great to see, because it felt, you know, kind of hopeless there for a while. But let's move on. Last couple of games, Purdue, Indiana. I think Indiana should win this one easily. Purdue is not very good. Indiana coming off that loss to Ohio State. I'm going to say Indiana wins like probably 31-24. It made that like Purdue may get a late score to make it look closer than it actually was. Okay, Washington, Oregon. Oregon should win this game pretty easily. I feel like, yes, it's a rivalry game, but Washington has really kind of struggled all year. I think Oregon should win this because they're 11-0. They got a lot to play for. If they keep going, they'll get the number 1 seed and have a good path into the playoff. So I'm going to say Oregon wins probably like 42-24. Okay, last couple. Texas A&M. Oh my God, this one's getting renewed. Like, this one is great. This fact that the SEC expanded into having this game come back is huge. You know, like we didn't have this game for 13 years or whatever it was since Texas A&M left the Big 12, and now we have it again. This was such a huge rivalry. I mean, I remember this when I was younger, and it always being a big thing. And like, I know that like when the game was actually played moved around a bit, if it was Friday, if it was Thursday, or like whatever on Thanksgiving weekend. But also when they used to have that huge bonfire, and like they had the bonfire, and then I think it was like at least one or two people passed away when something like it like fell apart, and like someone got hurt really bad and someone passed away. And so that was a huge thing that happened, and like it was in the news when it happened. So it was kind of scary. But no, this rivalry is huge, and I'm glad it's back. I'm glad to see them playing each other. This needed to happen. Like, this is good for college football. This is good for just the like. It's good all around. Okay, so to the game, I like Marcel Reed a lot. I think he is very capable. I think he has been the difference maker all year for A&M. I think with him, he gives them a real good shot of beating Texas. But I like Quinn Ewers more. I have been high on Quinn Ewers since like probably 2 years ago when Texas almost beat Alabama in Austin. And I feel like Texas is the better team. They obviously have a better ranking and a better record. But it's not just that. Their defense is very strong. I like A&M's defense too, but I think Texas's defense is better. And I think Texas can score enough points here to make the difference. I think it's a close one. I think it's going to be like probably a 24-17 game. And, it's low scoring. It's probably a surprise. But I think this one's going to be like one of those ones where they're like feeling each other out at first. And then Texas kind of just controls the game second quarter on. Okay, last three. Kansas State, Iowa State. Huge game. Kansas State, I wish they hadn't lost to Houston because this game would be immense. This would really be like one of the bigger games of the year. I like Avery Johnson a lot. I like Rocco Becht, and I like Iowa State's offense. I think they're like have been able to win some of these close games. They did lose to Texas Tech, but they've looked better the last couple of weeks, and they lost to Kansas. But Kansas State has some of these really bad losses, and it's just been tough for them. This is going to be close. I don't know. This is a coin flip on this one. It really is. I feel like both of these teams are equally matched. I'm going to say Iowa State wins it because Iowa State has more on the line because they have a real shot at getting to the Big 12 championship game and the playoff. I'm going to say Iowa State wins like 31 to like 24. And it's a shame because I really liked Kansas State all year and felt like they deserved to play for bigger things, but they just couldn't put it together. Last two, Nevada, UNLV. UNLV should get this one pretty easily. Have an outside shot of getting to a playoff spot. They'd have to win this and the Mountain West championship game against Boise State. I don't think it's likely, but it's nice to put this on here just because of the possibility. So I think UNLV wins like 38 to like 20. Last one, Houston, BYU. BYU last couple of weeks really struggled. They lost to Arizona State, and they lost to what was the other team they lost to? Arizona State and Kansas. And so, they have a real shot here. They just got to win this game and hope that chaos ensues for the Big 12 championship game. I think BYU should win this game, and I think they will. I think BYU wins like probably 28 to like 17. I like Red Slav a lot. I like their offense. And again, they score a lot of non-offensive touchdowns on both special teams and defense collectively. And I think they can do that here. And I think that'll be the difference in the game. Okay, that's it. That is the show. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, share, everything you can for us. We're on all the social medias. We're on Twitter, X, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Follow us there. Like I said, help us out. Haterradio.com is going to have some articles coming up the next couple of weeks for the playoffs, and hopefully something here for Florida when they win this game. And then that's the regular season. So we'll have the regular season show Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then from then on out, it's just playoff shows. And so we'll have a live show during the college football ranking selection on the day after the championship games. And then, it'll be different as we go because obviously the Heisman week, there's no games, but we may talk like Army Navy a little bit and just some like housekeeping stuff just to like do the show. But that is it. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Enjoy these games. Like I said, enjoy that turkey. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you later.